Axe likes this very much.
Welcome to
Coffee with Hobbies.
five, four, three, two, one.
Let's do this.
And welcome back to Coffee with Toffees, guys. My name is Toffees, as always, bringing you the action, the updates on news, everything you need to know about Dota here on Coffee with Toffees. It's a unique show. We're recording on a Saturday night. It's a bit late, but it's the only time that we could get Durka because he's based all the way over in Germany to come on and talk a little bit about himself and what he's doing for Join Dota. We're excited to have him here. So before we introduce him, though, let me run through the typical stuff we have to do before every show. If you like to follow it, if you want to know more about the show, you can follow me at Toffees_Dota2 over on Twitter. If you want to help support the show, you can go to patreon.com/Toffees. Twitch will not give me a sub button for a show like this, so if you want to keep us going, and when I say us, I mean me, you can go to Patreon, give $1, give $4, give $27,000. Really, that's your choice. But whatever goes into it does help keep the show running and makes it a little easier to wake up every single morning. That said, though, let's talk straight to it about the man joining me. His name is Gareth, quote-unquote, Durka. Is it Bateson or Battison? Bateson. Now, joining me in the studio today, and I have to ask you, the first question of this whole interview is could you have a more English name than Gareth Bateson?
Oh, well, Gareth is a Welsh name.
Is it?
Yeah.
Okay.
So, I don't know, I could have a more British... I could be called
suppose
John
you could.
Smith or something like that. But my name and my background is like the entire United Kingdom. Scottish, Irish, English, Welsh, everything is
Right.
thrown into one. So, I guess I couldn't be more United Kingdom-ish than I am right now.
There you go. That's a better way to put it. Now, what part of the UK are you actually from?
I was born in the north of England, in Yorkshire.
Okay.
I lived abroad for a lot of my life, and it's kind of one of those weird questions that people ask, like, "Oh, where are you from?"
Right.
And I have to sort of stop for 20 seconds and think, do I go into the full spiel and say I've lived here and here, or do I just say I'm from England? That's where I'm from. But I've lived in many places. Most recently, I lived in North London. But yeah,
So many
Originally-
places in the UK, or were you like a world traveler living in Africa and Peru and?
my parents were teachers, and in the 90s in England, teaching suddenly became like not a big thing. Like teachers weren't paid a lot and stuff like that. So they decided to move abroad. I've lived in Saudi Arabia, Indonesia, Brunei. So I've traveled a lot in Southeast Asia. And then I moved back about 6 years ago to England. And now I'm in Berlin.
Wow, yeah, no, you are a man of the world, Durka. So along those lines, let's jump off, and I think the place that I want to start, and I should preface with this, guys. Please bear with Durka. He has been broadcasting for about 12 hours today, and had the kindness to come over here after the broadcast to sit down and talk with me for just a little while. And really what I want to do is, a lot of the folks I think who listen to the start of the podcast and folks from the North American scene, I remember when JD made the announcement, I got a lot of messages that were like, hey, do you know this guy? Who is this guy? What does he do? Because I know that you're or were previously a very heavy UK caster, and work sort of in that region, in that time zone. So what I'd love to do is like get our North American audience and those others who listen to get to know you a little bit better. So why don't we start out with you telling me about yourself? If I asked you to give me a mini bio, what would it sound like?
In general, or esports, or
Let's talk general. I want everybody to get to know you, and then we can talk esports a little bit later.
I'm 25 years old.
Okay.
I like gaming.
Okay.
I don't know. I enjoy lots of things. I enjoy cooking. I originally started playing computer games on the PC when I moved to Southeast Asia. That's where a lot of my sort of origins in Dota started. I played CS 1.6 back then,
Okay.
or 1.5 even, and Warcraft 3 was sort of like, a game you played during the breaks. And
Interesting.
you play custom maps, and you go and play 3 corridors, and then suddenly this Dota thing appeared, and people started playing it. Moved back to Europe for a little bit, and continued playing on... I never played on actual Battle.net. I played on like custom servers,
Okay.
because that's kind of what you did. You didn't really have the big NA Battle.net scene where people joined in and created their own lobbies. You'd play on custom servers. Then Garena came, started playing on that. Ask me some questions.
Okay, so let's go back in time. So we traveled a lot. We know that your family were teachers, and they started to kind of move you about a little bit. And during your SEA time, what got you started in computer games? So like, what was the first one you played? What did you love about it that sort of got you to the point where you were playing enough to start to recognize Dota 2 in these other environments?
I guess the first computer game I ever played, my dad got a PC when I was like 7 or 8, and he was playing Civilization, and that was the first sort of interaction with computer gaming, was Civilization. Like, oh, turn-based. This is not my kind of thing. This is not fun. I want to move the guys. I want to control what's actually happening, not sort of plan things out ahead. And then when I moved to Southeast Asia, one of the people, we moved on to like a group of houses where all the teachers lived, and one of the teachers had a son who was about a year or two older than me, and he asked me, have you played Counter-Strike? And I said yes, because I played Red Alert, Command & Conquer Red Alert, which had an expansion called Counter-Strike. So I was like, yeah, I've played Counter-Strike. I love it. Takes me to a LAN cafe, sits me down. Okay, right, let's play. Loads me into a lobby. What is this? I'm shooting people? What are the controls? What do I do? Where are the buttons? It's like, put your hand, WASD, left hand there, right hand on the mouse, now go. And it just felt like the most natural thing ever, just going into this game and starting to play like that. But that was my first real interaction with playing against other people, but also playing a game like a LAN cafe, because over there, people didn't have PCs at home and didn't have really internet connections at home to play from. Everyone, Saturday, 10 a.m. until 6 p.m., go to the LAN cafe and play, like groups of 20, 30 people from school.
Wow. So that's how you sort of got started with video games. That's interesting. By the way, I should ask, is your father a social studies teacher?
Nope, both of my parents are primary teachers.
Okay. Let's say social studies teachers tend to love Civ. So I figured I would ask, but great game. So you started out there, you would spend all this time in LANs. Ironically enough, you started in the very scene that is getting so much press right now, the SEA LAN scene, for things like bans on Dota 2, national sports being established. So you could say that you were one of those people that started the SEA Dota 2 CSGO scene.
I don't know if I'd say I started it, because I wasn't exactly one of the best players. I played in a few LAN events, played in a team, but I don't know.
Okay, so we went from there in the SEA, so you started to learn to play, and then you sort of moved around, and I assume that you kind of kept the games with you and learned to enjoy it. At what point did you start to look at the casting side of things and think, hey, I might want to be involved with that?
It was right around TI1, or right a short time after TI1, when I was looking for a Dota 2 beta key, and I started checking out sites like Ghosty Gamers, and I started watching Gods, and I don't know if you remember GG Charms on GGNet.
I don't. I'm sorry.
They were some of the big casters outside of Toby before.
Gotcha.
I think it was before Join Dota had started even. But I started watching basically all these casters, thinking, "Wow, this is really interesting. Something I can get into." Asking people, "How do I get into this?" Well, you've got to start, recording your own videos, maybe streaming. And I didn't have a PC to record. I didn't have an internet connection to stream. There was no way in for me to do this. So I was asking around, and luckily enough, it's one of those things where you get lucky, and I started talking to Charms and started playing with him. I did a co-cast with him once, and then from there, you meet friends. You become mutual friends with someone else, and then friends with someone else, and then like, oh, do you want to come and do something with me, or jump on for this fun cast here? I think one of the first casts I did on a decent-sized stream was the ATOD Reverse Captain's Draft Tournament on Join Dota.
Okay.
And it was meant to be Toby and Slesh. But Toby had to go and stand in for one of the teams. So Slesh was like, come and join me. I was like, sure, I'll do this. But that was a good 3 years ago or something like that.
So that was about 3 years ago for your first decent-sized stream.
Yeah.
How long ago did you start with... I mean, every caster starts, I think, usually in the same spot, casting to like 3 people, maybe some friends, and sort of getting their feet under them, making some videos. How long ago did that start for you?
I never started casting on my own, because where I lived in England, the internet connections are not good. Like North London basically has one of the worst connectivity in Northern Europe, or in Europe in general. So our upload speed was about 0.2 megabits, not worthwhile of any stream whatsoever. So I was jumping on with Epi Commentaries, if you remember him. He started off doing some casts. He did.
I've
some
heard the
commentary.
names, and I think a lot of folks know that I really only joined the scene aggressively a little over a year ago. So some of the grandfathers, I've heard their names, but I've never experienced what they do.
So he then went on to Take TV and does some German stuff now. I'm not sure exactly what he's doing
Gotcha.
now, but I did co-casting with him.
Hmm.
And that's where I got my first sort of foray into co-casting with people. And from there, sort of improving. Then started co-casting with Toby a little bit.
Mhm.
But I was mainly looking to the UK scene.
Right.
And it was kind of lucky that Dota Talk did an event in London shortly after I had been co-casting with Epi and Toby.
Hmm.
And they asked me to come along and do that.
Now, was that the Epic LAN event, or what event was that one?
That was Dota Talk. It was just called the Dota Talk LAN or
Okay.
something like that. But it was a small LAN event. It was like the first Dota event really in the UK that had
Oh, wow.
any kind of following. There wasn't a big, cash prize pool. There was some Steel Series stuff that was given away, some other peripherals. I can't remember exactly what, but
Hmm.
I think we had about 15 teams or something turn up. A decent
Okay.
sized amount.
Yeah. So you got your start there. Folks on the UK scene, I saw something. Well, first I want to know, how long have you known Toby One?
Through mutual friends, probably 2.5,
Okay.
3, around the same time as I did that cast with Slash, because I
Okay.
can't remember who I met him through, but I had a group of friends which knew someone who knew Toby, and then you sort of start playing together, and friendships build like that. It's kind of weird in esports
Mhm.
where a lot of things are more how you meet people rather than who you meet. So if you meet someone like if you meet Toby at an event and you say hi and you get chatting to him,
Right.
it's different to actually going and playing a game.
Right.
So you form different kinds of relationships with different people online.
Makes sense. So you sort of met him there. I know that you also work with a lot of the folks from the English scene or UK scene. I know that about a year ago you did the Epic LAN with Piri and Flax. I think Shane O'Mad was at that event. Is Epic LAN something that still goes on, or was that just a 1 or 2 time UK tournament?
No, Epic LAN happens twice a year, sometimes 3 times a year, depending on the amount of tickets they sell. It's one of the smaller. It's more a community-based event where
Cool.
people turn up to drink and play games more than turn up for the tournaments. Like they have smaller prize pots, but it's a more fun event. Whereas there's a larger event which is more expo-based, a much bigger LAN, more like DreamHack. Well, it's like DreamHack, but obviously a lot smaller.
Right.
Where they have an expo next door. They've got like Minecraft exhibitions where they bring in YouTubers, and then they've got the LAN event halls next door.
Wow. So you have these big events. I'm curious, and this is something maybe we can talk about. Some folks do ask questions about this. The UK scene seems like it's pretty healthy. I mean, basically, as I went back to sort of do research for this interview, I found a lot of stuff about LANs that you've worked with, personalities over there. But it's hard for me to put my finger on a lot of UK-specific Dota 2 teams at the upper level or players. Is that what is the reason for that? Because it sounds to me, the way that you're explaining what these events, that there's a healthy game group there.
People enjoy playing the game, but a lot of people don't enjoy playing with each other. Like they'll play with each other for a couple of months or a couple of weeks, but there's not that consistency. So we've now got ESL running weekly and monthly cups, which is trying to build up that consistency and keeping teams together so they can keep winning prize pots.
Mhm.
But for LAN, we kind of have like a shuffle of players every couple of months.
Right.
And it's just down to having a relatively small pool of players who are capable of performing at that, I say high level, but it's sort of like a tier 3 European level.
Okay. So I actually found some older games that I think you played in a staff cup with Toby and Purge and some other people. Well, what is it like, or what? I don't know if you still get to, but what is it like to play Dota with Toby, and what is it like to play Dota with Purge? Because those are two people that I think our community is very familiar with.
Purge is always like he's really calm and collected, but you can always, like, if something's going wrong in the game, you can always sense that he's thinking it out, working it in his head. He's always very, I don't know what the word is right now at 4 in the morning. He's always thinking about what's happening and trying to figure ways to remedy it.
Okay.
I don't know if there's a word that could have summed that up better, but that's what he does. Toby is always very lighthearted, especially in the Staff Cup games.
Really?
Yeah.
Well,
Like,
he seems like a very intense person when you watch him stream.
He never brings you down. Like,
Okay.
even if you're losing a game, he's like, "Oh, let's go and do this." He's always very upbeat in the Staff Cup games.
That's good. So he's encouraging in the staff cup. That's nice. And I think a lot of us don't. A lot of folks don't get to see Toby outside of, Toby doing his broadcasting because he's not a big streamer that I've seen in the past. So that's kind of fun to hear about. Rolling forward into your transition to Germany. So as I go back through your history, I see a lot of this sort of UK landing, a lot of playing in that scene. You know a lot of the personalities over there. Tell us about the call when it came in and the decision that you made to make that move to Germany.
There had been sort of not talks, but
Mm-hmm.
mentions before it happened, like, oh, we've got some stuff coming up. We may need another caster.
Right.
We might ask you if you'd be interested. Maybe a trial, something like that. And you sort of think, oh, well, that could be something. But
Yeah.
I'd be working at the time, and it's hard to, sort of uproot,
Yeah.
move somewhere else, try and settle down somewhere new. But I was coming to the end of the year at my job,
Mhm.
and I went to Azerbaijan with Toby and Cap to IASF, and that was sort of like a trial for me, I guess.
Okay.
And seemingly I passed, and that was pretty much it.
Okay. And so what were you doing before you took the full-time casting job?
I was doing admin and logistics work in a warehouse that sold curtains.
Interesting. So what?
No, that's the complete opposite of what it is.
Well, no, it's interesting because it seems like, guys, this is for those of you aspiring casters out there that Toby Wan recruits specifically out of warehouse employees. So I know that Cap drove a forklift for a
truck,
warehouse,
yep.
and now we have a logistics guy for a warehouse. So the next person who wants to work for Toby, you need to get a job in human resources or in packaging, and I think that maybe that's going to be an opportunity for you. So you had a terrible job or a boring job, I would assume.
It wasn't too bad.
Okay.
Like the company, it was like a family-run company. It wasn't a big multinational or anything. So it was nice working there. The pay wasn't great, but it wasn't an awful job.
Okay.
I didn't enjoy it, but it was something to make money, I guess.
Yeah, absolutely. So let me ask you this. Had you decided before that call came in initially that you wanted to try to go pro in esports, or was it just a hobby literally until that moment when you got offered the job?
Oh yeah, it was just a hobby. Like for the past year and a half, I had been basically just working and not doing anything in the well, I'd been resting in the evenings because I was tired after work, and then occasionally at weekends I'd go into UK LAN events, and occasionally during the week I'd do some online tournament stuff for the UK guys as well. So it was sort of just a hobby.
And then, so what was it like when, I mean, even after the LAN? So the LAN was sort of a test, and I'm sure at that point you're still like, well, maybe this will be cool, or maybe something will come of this. When Toby gets you on the phone and says, hey, we want to offer you a full-time position here in Germany at the Join Dota studio, you get to basically talk about Dota for a living. Like, what was that moment like?
It was kind of scary because moving to Join Dota, one of the oldest Dota 2 studio, isn't it? Really, it was the first one that brought mass scale broadcasting to the Dota 2 community. Going there and not knowing if I'm gonna fit in Germany, fit in the studio, fit in with Freaks for You, which is the mother company, and then also the audience watching, will they enjoy what I'll put out? Will I actually perform to the standards that people expect? It's all, it was all very daunting to begin with. But I think over the past couple of weeks, I've sort of settled in a bit. The main worry I had was learning how to press buttons on this damn soundboard, but things have worked out. I've not messed up. I've forgotten once to turn my mic on, and I've forgotten once to put my mic on. Because I went to turn my mic on, started talking, and realized, looked down, that my microphone headset was on the table and I wasn't actually talking into anything.
Nice. It's because of those headsets.
Yeah.
But so awesome. So you're learning the ropes. You're over there. You're starting to get settled in and comfortable. But you did say something I want to touch on. Did you say that your casting schedule prior to taking the job was near nothing, or did you do like a once a week? Like what did that 3 months, 4 months before you got hired sort of look like in terms of casting?
It was pretty limited. Like
Okay.
I jump on with Toby and Cap once in a while, maybe once or twice a week, like at the maximum.
Okay.
But UK wise, online tournaments were sort of like 2 nights
Mm.
every 2 months or so,
Wow.
maybe 2.5 months
Okay.
for the online stuff. So they just do these online qualifiers for the main events, and then the main events, there were 3 a year for the big one, and then 2 a year for the small one. So 5 main events.
So what is it like going from that schedule to a schedule like you had today, which was basically 12 hours straight nonstop casting? Much of I think you did by yourself.
It's not that difficult because the main events in England, we'd run from like you'd wake up at 9, you'd start at 10, and then it would run till whenever, like actually whenever. And one of the first events we did, well, I did with Pyrian Flax, was I-49,
Okay.
and we started at like 10 in the morning, and then it came to 2 p.m. and the event got DDoSed. So from 2 p.m. till 6 p.m. we could do nothing. So then 6 p.m. came, like we've got internet back. Okay, guys, let's start. And we just ran until like 1 a.m. Then the next day we've got to catch up and keep going. So, you know, the events could run for a good 14, 15 hours. Like we were working
Wow.
for 14, 15 hours in a day sometimes. Other times it wasn't as bad. You'd run from like 10 until 9 p.m. or something if all the games ran short. But
Nice. So you're used to a little bit of this marathon thing, so you should be good jumping into that. It sounds like they didn't give you a lot of buffer time. They basically said you're here, you're part of the team, now go for it, and that's pretty exciting.
yeah, Toby was like, you should get a co-caster. Yep, I should. I need to start looking for co-casters to grab on and pull on.
There you go. So, guys, if you heard it here, email him your demos. That said, though, let's talk about some Reddit questions. By the way, I was being sarcastic. You don't have to send him demos. I was just saying that to say it. Reddit questions that some folks sent in. I put a post up on Reddit and said, we got Durkr coming on. What do you want to ask him? What do you want to know about him? And some of them have to do with the UK scene. A lot of folks are asking about what your intentions or what you're looking at going forward with Join Dota. So here's a few of them. Nasi J asks your thoughts on, we talked a little bit about it, but I'd like to expand. Your thoughts on the UK Dota scene specifically, and is there a chance of having top teams or players in the next year or two?
Players?
Yeah, so are there, we can probably, let's say 2 or 3 years ago here in the NA, CA, SA scene, we could sort of point to a couple of players. Like we had our fears and we had players who we said, these guys are big dogs. They're going to be in the pros. They're going to be in tier 1. But a lot of us didn't think we'd pull out a whole team, and now we have one. Do we think that in the next 2 years, the UK will be doing the same thing?
We thought that Team Infused, which is a Welsh team, would start picking up. They did really well in like Join Dota League and started doing European tournaments, but they didn't really fulfill their potential. There was a UK team called Dwayne the John Roxon with one of our biggest players, Rhyme,
Okay.
but he... How do I put this nicely? He is one of those players I was talking about before. He's got the skill. He's got the potential to be one of those... Like, he could be in a tier 2 team.
Right.
But he doesn't get along with people in the UK scene that much. So
okay.
there are people who will play with him, and his team has done well in UK LAN events up until the last 2. But as UK LAN events get larger and larger prize pools, we then get European teams coming in. So we had Aftershock,
Okay.
which have renamed, and I can't remember what they've renamed to now. But they had Mind Control on their team, I'm pretty sure, who
Okay.
is now on Beyond Unknown.
Okay.
At I-51, come and win it. And last one was I-52 or I-53, I can't remember now. But it was London Conspiracy, came over and won it. So we've had the last 2 big events, European teams have come over and won, simply because they've got not just a stronger roster, but they've stayed together for long enough. Like our
Okay.
teams are sort of switching players in and out. But player-wise, I don't know if you've heard of BLR, but he played with the ex-Quantic guys, like Sochka, Funzy.
Okay.
Played with them. We've got a couple of players in like the top 50 MMR. There's like 3 players from the UK in there. But whether or not they can actually break it out into the pro scene, I don't know.
Is Vastcast the name that we're looking for? Or no, I was trying to see who Aftershock turned into, but apparently it's not up on the internet readily available either. That's it. So there's a potential that some people could break out. It's just maybe the scene isn't gelling the way that it needs to throw those teams forward. Perfect. So SXI139 wants to know how is casting for JD Studios compared to your old gig? He said old gig, so I don't know. Maybe he just means compared to sitting in your room with a microphone, or maybe he means working with sort of the folks that you worked with prior to.
Well, compared to sitting in my old room with my Blue Yeti mic and,
Right.
worrying about the fan noise from my PC, oh God, can they hear everything? And it's a lot better here. Like the studio setup is really nice compared to the LAN events. Obviously having a production crew at LAN events is a big
Right.
deal. Obviously you don't have one here in the studios. You've got to do most of the things yourself, but I think that's the only real difference.
Do you guys have multiple studios in the building? So you sort of have like your studio, or do you guys sort of just rotate out based on your schedule?
There are lots of studios in the building. So Freaks for You has CSGO, League of Legends, Dota 2, and possibly... So then there's like 2 studios for each-ish.
Okay.
So there's quite a few. I'm not sure on the number though.
Okay, excellent. Ewoks Kicks, and this is interesting perception. Well, first I want to ask, are you a English football or soccer, whatever you want to call it, are you a footy fan?
Not anymore. I used to be before I came back to England, weirdly enough. When I lived over in Southeast Asia, it's a really big thing over there to follow teams like Manchester United, Liverpool, follow the big ones. I don't follow it too much well, I don't follow it at all anymore, but I used to stay up to like 2 or 3 in the morning just to watch the matches because of the time zone difference, but
Right.
no.
So not anymore, but you did watch it when you were growing up a little bit.
Yeah.
Okay, so that actually plays well in Ewok's question. Ewok wants to know if your casting style is influenced at all by your proximity or your past experience with English soccer.
Possibly. Maybe unconsciously, but I'm not sure.
Okay, so to parlay into that, how would you describe your casting? Would you say that you're sort of a play-by-play hype guy? Like, when you think of your casting style, how would you describe it?
I think conversational is my casting style.
Hmm.
So rather than, I do try and bring in hype elements and a little bit of analysis, but most of the time I'm just having a conversation with the viewers pretty much. They're not answering back too much, maybe in chat, maybe to themselves, but sort of asking questions throughout the thing, like, what's his decision, but what's the reason he's made this decision? Why has he gone for this? And then trying to think it out in my head, talk through it, go through the different possibilities, and just trying to bridge that gap between the pro player's mind and decision making and the viewer wondering exactly the same thing. Like, why has he done that? I would have done a different thing. I think my thing's better, but I sort of try and show that there are multiple paths to take, and not all of them, none of them are wrong.
Okay. So you're sort of like the what's looking for? Sorry, the Dota cast. That makes sense. So open conversation, make it work. I like that a lot. Let me ask you this: as a caster, and this is something a lot of folks are curious about. I think when they meet casters or other casters want to know, where do you think that you shine, and where do you think that you need the most improvement?
Camera control is not my strong point.
Okay.
I need to do a lot of work on that. Also controlling the tone of my voice, I think. Sometimes I get hyped over the little things which people don't get excited about. So when someone does, a tiny little thing, like they triple stack camps or something in the jungle, I get hyped over. Like, it's like, oh my God, he did it. The amazing play. He pulled it off. Like, there's a 0.1 second window where he can do that, and he actually managed it. And there's people watching like, what the hell is he laughing at?
Okay,
But-
so that's where you sort of need to work. What do you think that where do you think you stand out as a caster?
I think trying to get into the players' minds, like showing the viewers that the players are humans too, and they go through the same thought processes we do when we play. They're not just dead straight, this is the way you do it. There are so many parameters and factors that players have to think about in games that it's not all just the captain saying, do this, do this, do this. Or it's not just the player thinking, okay, I've got this build set out. Everything changes. Everything's dynamic in Dota, really.
Excellent. That's a great thing to be good at, getting into the players' heads and kind of thinking like them, something that we don't get to see all that often. So that's exciting to see. We look forward, I think, to the improvement. Do you have a comprehensive plan for improvement, or is it going to be a cast 12 hours a day, 6 days a week?
Learn as we go.
It kind of has to be, right? I mean, have you gotten your JD schedule for the next month, or does it sort of like you get a call on Monday about what you're doing on Tuesday?
Oh no, there's a calendar with all the stuff set out, so I know at least like a week or two in advance.
So, what do you think your average casting hours per week are going to look like? Just out of curiosity.
I've not counted actually.
Okay.
I don't know, but it's one of those things where, you know, one week you could be casting 70 hours or something, next week you're casting 5. It just depends on the amount of games, the amount of tournaments. I mean, we do have a lot of games coming up. We've obviously got the MLG Pro League, we've got WePlay, which got pushed back a little bit, but that's coming up soon. But we'll be covering a lot of games over the next couple of months.
Some folks posted and said they wanted to ask you a little bit about the future of Join Dota, if you have plans for it. Did you come on just for casting, or are there show ideas or other aspects that you're hoping to develop at Join Dota besides the casting scene?
We not really teased, but we showed a couple of show ideas on the 24-hour stream when we did that
Okay.
a couple of days ago. I'm looking towards doing fight recaps, not just for any old fight, but I did one on the stream, which is now up on the Join Dota Plus YouTube channel, I think.
Okay.
It was a Na'Vi versus Empire game, and I basically tried to break down the team fight. Instead of looking at the team fight and seeing Dendi blinks in RPs, oh my god, what a great RP. You sort of look at the positioning of people, see what happens. The mirroring of teams is really common, where you see basically a line of heroes up against a line of heroes, but then the placement in that line, Na'Vi had an Abaddon smack bang in the middle,
Okay.
links off to the side to draw in a couple of the supports, but it turned from one line of Empire against one line of Na'Vi to suddenly this concave into ball, and that's where the RP actually happened. So it wasn't just Dendi making that RP out of thin air. It was Na'Vi pressuring in, making sure. And I don't know why I've gone into the spiel about a fight recap.
No, I think no, but it does a good job of demonstrating what you said your strong point is, that you get into the players' heads, you can see movement, or you can understand strategies. And I think when we watch Dota a lot, we hear about builds, right? We hear about items, we hear about gold progression, but there's a lot of finesse and minutia that goes into these games from these players that makes things like that Dendi RP work so well, and it's the whole team doing it together. So I think that's a very valuable thing to see. It wasn't just Dendi being godlike with an RP, it was his whole team saying, Dendi, we're going to give you this RP and it's going to win for us.
Yeah. And it was one of these games where it was the epitome of a turnaround. Like, it was a 5,000 lead for Empire. They were trying to secure Roshan. Like, there were so many factors in this that made it a great fight to recap. They were Radiant, they were pushing the Dire Tier 2 to try and secure that Roshan. But yeah, there's lots of things that go into the thought process behind taking team fights, where to take them, and then the actual team fight itself.
So, out of curiosity, your job description, as somebody who's full-time, you're a pro caster now, like, brush your shoulders off, your business card says Durka, well, I'm sure it says your full name, Gareth Durka Bateson, pro caster for Join Dota Studios. What does that job description look like? Is it just you will cast games until you vomit, or is it you will cast games and do these other things as well?
My job description is Dota 2 commentator, and you sort of just go along with it. Like, you put ideas on the table, see if you've got time to actually do them. There's a really nice system here where, you know, you send stuff down to the graphics department if you need some graphics set up, if you need this, you need that. There's all these different departments that you can request things from, but it all comes down to scheduling things. You can have these great ideas, but if you can't schedule them and actually execute them. But we've got some ideas, and we've definitely got time to do them.
So it sounds like it's fairly organic. Like, the team says, hey, if you have an idea, bring it to the team, and if it's feasible, we'll play with it. It's not a, this is your job, leave it at that.
Yeah.
Awesome. And I mean, that's the kind of thing that, you know, we don't get to see out here as the viewers. We get to see the casters, we get to see the studio, but hearing about how things are run is always interesting, at least to me personally, and I think for the viewers or the listeners, it sort of is as well. And I don't want to keep you too long because I know that you have been up a copious amount of time, so we're going to wrap this up, but before we do, a couple of final questions. One I think may come up maybe a little bit tough, and we'll go right into it now, and then from there I've got a couple of fun ones to give you. Now, on Reddit, it came out a few times. I've seen it on Twitter, and I've heard it in some conversations. And some folks have asked, why does Durka get this opportunity compared to other casters that are better known or have been putting in a lot more hours over the last year? So they've cited a couple of folks, even for Join Dota, who are constantly streaming or constantly casting. And I would like you to be able to address those people who don't really know you, who haven't had the experience, and say, this is why I think I was the right person for this job?
That's a really difficult question. You
It's
put
a
me on the
hard-
spot now.
It's a hard one. I was going to send it to you earlier, but you're casting, unfortunately. So I apologize for that. If you want to think about it, I can give you some other random ones where we can just converse.
Um, when I don't know. I don't know about this question.
Okay.
I guess in esports, like if I guess a good example of this is Shane,
Mhm.
because he didn't really do any big casting events before he joined the Good Studio over for the Dream League.
Yep.
But it's a lot about people seeing potential in someone.
Mhm.
I think that's what Toby and Cap have done. Is they've known me for a while. They've seen I've progressed and put some work in, and I've focused a lot on the UK scene.
Mhm.
And they know that I am dedicated once I set my eye on something.
Good.
So I think it's the sort of vision that they can see the potential there, and it's not saying that the people who have been casting constantly aren't worthy of it.
Right. So essentially, what we're looking at, and I think that's just totally okay, and how business and how these sorts of things work is they saw your dedication. They see that once you commit to doing something, you make sure that it gets done and you do it well. It's not to say that other casters aren't good, aren't better in some ways, aren't bigger in name. It's just saying that you fit what JD needs right now, and you're willing to put whatever work you have to be that guy.
Yeah, and it's also moving to Berlin. Not a lot of people
That's a
would
good point.
uproot, move from America or Australia, wherever they would be coming from, to move to Berlin. So there's lots of factors that go into it. And it's, I think I saw that Reddit post, and I think it mentioned people like Blaze, people like that, and they've put a lot of work in. They've done a lot of work for multiple studios. BTS joined Dota, so it's not that they're not worthy of it. But I don't know.
No, I think that your answer is fun and it makes sense, and it's it comes across to me like at the end of the day, you're saying I have the dedication and I have the desire to do it, and I will pursue that, and I think that that's respectable as somebody, for a job interview, for a position. That's all that we can ask for as fans. That said, you did bring up the transition to Germany. The uproot is something that I think a lot of folks, myself included, there's no way we could do that. I mean, I have a family, I have all kinds of stuff. So moving to Germany is a huge step, a huge shakeup. How is that going so far?
It's going really well. Like, they've done a lot for me and bringing my girlfriend over as well.
Nice.
So there's the two of us that moved. So the whole Freaks for You, like, when I had that first interview with like the CEO and the lead for Joint Dota and things like that, they were like, okay, it's like kind of like a family here. It's not really that, like, obviously it's a company. We're here
Right.
to make money, but it's sort of a family where people come in. You say hi to people. You don't just go straight to your office and start working, put your head down. But yeah, they've done a lot to help us move in.
Okay.
And even the other day, we went off, had to register our address, get bank accounts, and I was half expecting, to be just left on my own. Not that, I expected that from this company, but
Right.
in other situations, you'd think, okay, well, I'm a grown man, I'll just do it on my own. But they was like, no, we'll send someone with you. We'll show
Awesome.
you which paperwork to take. We'll do this. We'll do that. Everything has been really well thought out.
So the studio's been supportive, which is good to hear. I know when Kat moved there, he had, what did he say? He had a desk and a washing machine or something like that in his apartment. Do you feel like the move has been sort of bare bones? I got to figure out this whole German thing, or is it pretty comfortable? Did your girlfriend, was she able to find something to do over there, or is she just enjoying seeing Germany?
She's been given a sort of temporary job here,
Okay.
where she's doing database stuff and working
Nice.
on the Joint Data backend. So they've given her like basically a trial to see how it works out.
Awesome.
But yeah, it's been good. I need to learn German though.
I imagine.
Like it's not bad in the office. People speak English, and lots of people speak English here in Berlin. But when you go to like a supermarket, or you go to like a fast food place, or you go out and you're like, I would like this. And then you realize that you can't say that. You have to try and point it out or something like that. Like, oh, right. I can't actually mime, I want garlic sauce on that.
Oh my. So I imagine that's a bit of a change. How is the culture and food difference? Because you're coming from, I mean, I guess you've lived everywhere, but you've spent the last 6 years living north of London. Is it kind of a culture shock moving to Germany, or is it pretty comfortable?
It's pretty comfortable. Like, there's one thing I miss from home, and that's my cupboard of spices, because I love cooking. I make, like, Mexican food, Indian food, all sorts of stuff. I've learned how to cook from my dad and friends from around the world and stuff like that. So we can't wait to move in to the new apartment, because we're currently living in like a temporary place, and they're finding us a place next week.
Nice.
So we can start building up the spice cupboard again, start cooking properly.
If you can figure out how to ask for the items you're cooking at the butcher shop, which I think is...
Please, can I have chicken?
You know,
What?
I only laugh because I lived, you're probably not familiar with the States, I lived in Chicago for a long time, which is a very multicultural city, and the part that I lived in, everybody around me, no one spoke English. So if I wanted meat, I had to go to a Ukrainian meat market, and basically in order to find out who was next at the butcher's line, you had to find someone's number and like stand behind them so that you knew when it was coming up, and ordering meat was a point and sniff process. So I 100% understand where you're coming from, except I could take a bus where to somewhere where they spoke English. I suppose you can't really do that.
Nope. I could, but it'd take about 8 hours.
8 hours, so that's crazy. Is your family still in the UK?
Yeah.
Okay, so that's not too bad of a jaunt to go back and see everyone, or is it just is that a pretty big task?
No, it's like, how long was it? It's like a 2-hour flight, something like that. It's really
awesome.
not. It's really not long.
Awesome. So you still are sort of close enough to home to know it's available, but having a grand adventure. So that's pretty cool. Before I wrap up, there's a question I ask all the casters who come onto the show for the first time. It's a bit of a wonky one, but it was given to me on Reddit once upon a time, and I laughed so hard I figured I'd ask everyone, and the answers have proven interesting. And it is this. If you had to describe your casting style or casting voice as a pair of underpants, what kind of underpants would they be? Are we talking boxers, briefs, boxer briefs? Depends. Like, what kind of casting style voice do you represent? Right? It's a fun one.
Oh. I think I'm a pair of boxers with
Okay.
Homer Simpson's face all over it.
Okay, that's a new one on me. I like that. Is there a particular reason that you chose that?
No, it's just 4:30 in the morning. That's the first thing that came to mind.
That's pretty good though. It's because it's a casual cast. That's a lot of fun to watch.
Dope.
That's dope. I like it. I will take that. I find it highly entertaining. Pyrian, somebody said, "What about Pyrian Flax's question?" over in chat.
My first couple of LAN events, I was unemployed and I had no money, and Pyrian was my father, and he bought me beer. And then my other couple of casts at LAN events, unfortunately, came just before payday, so I also had no money, so I could never get rounds in for anyone.
Nice.
And then one came around, and I had money, and I bought drinks for people, but the damage was already done.
Right. Once you get that reputation as the guy not kicking in,
Yep.
it sort of stays with you.
Yeah.
That's pretty funny. I do, however, hear that you're very good at pub trivia. So, in my opinion,
Who says this?
well, it was on the. There was an interview that you guys did during the Epic LAN, and Pyrian said your team was killer at pub trivia,
Yeah.
and you did a great job.
Our team consisted of me, Sabug, Matt, Pyrian, Flax, my girlfriend, and a couple of other guys. Now, I answered one question. Like there were like 10 questions around, and there were 6 rounds or something. I answered one question. Sabug, Matt answered one question. My girlfriend answered one question. Pyrian, Flax answered 57 questions. So our team consisted of him carrying us really hard in pub quiz. I did nothing whatsoever. P-Flax is he's a master at pub quizzes. Like, he knew everything. Soundtracks, adverts, I don't know. It was ridiculous.
So he carried you in the pub quiz, and then he bought the round of drinks.
Yep.
That's a good guy, that Pyrian Flax. Good guy. That said, that's pretty much all the questions that I have. I just kind of wanted to do a short get to know you period. I think that we got a good amount of answers. I'm sorry that some of the questions were a bit tough. Normally, for those of you who watch, normally I send the questions to those who I'm interviewing, or at least a rough draft of what the questions are going to be like ahead of time. Because Durka was so busy today, we didn't really have time to go over that. So, Durka, definitely, you did a great job for not having any of this stuff, some of the harder ones ahead of time. So I apologize for that. Are there any last thoughts or shout outs or anything that you want to share with the community, especially folks who I think don't know you that well?
I've had an amazing time over the past couple of weeks. I was fully expecting the community to go, who?
Right.
Who? But the amount of great feedback I've had, like people not just saying, oh, he sucks, but saying, oh, I'm kind of enjoying this. He needs to work on his camera work. He needs to do this. You know, comments on the YouTube videos I've been checking out and reading what people have been saying. There's a couple of negative ones, but the vast majority have been really good constructive criticism, which
Good.
you know, it's an amazing thing. So, yeah, shout out to those guys.
Excellent. Is that something that you're open to as constructive criticism? It's something that you enjoy getting?
Oh, yeah. If I can improve, then let me know. As long as it's, you know, it's one of those things that you can say to someone, oh, this is what you do well, this is what you do bad.
Right.
Try and improve what you do bad. But if you see someone or someone says, oh, you suck, I don't like you.
Right.
Then, you know, kind of put a downer on things, but.
Absolutely. So, Durka, open to constructive criticism. Keep the blatant insults in the pants. But I think that goes for everybody. That said, guys, that's the interview for the show today. We appreciate you being here. My name is Toffees, as always. You can follow me at Toffees_Dota2. I am joined by Gareth Durka Bateson. You can find him at Durka Dota. If you want to follow him, he just joined the Join Dota studio. I'm excited about seeing what comes out of there. I know that you guys have some big projects in the future. This MLG thing looks like it's going to be massive. So it is very exciting to have you stop by. I appreciate it. Guys, if you want to support the show, patreon.com/Toffees is the best way to do it. You can get one of these sweet mugs. I know you can all see how cool this mug is. Had that made. And the other big one I want to do is let you guys know that we are going to start to integrate call-ins to the show. So if you want to install Razer Comms, it's a new program that they just released. I like it because it's IP masking, which means that you can add me on Razer Comms. My screen name is Toffees, super easy. And basically what we're going to start doing is having call-ins when we have guests so that you can ask them questions directly. So if you want to install Razer Comms and add Toffees, I'm using that strictly for fan basis, so get in touch with me there anytime you want. Durka, great having you. I hope you get some sleep tonight, and I hope your voice recovers. Are you casting again tomorrow?
No, tomorrow's a day off. Sunday is a day off for me.
Nice. So you get to kind of lay back and drink some tea.
Oh, yeah.
And let me ask this. Let me wrap up with this. What is your solution to those days after a long cast when your voice is going and you know you got more to do? You know, cough drop brand you like? Do you have certain teas that you think are the best? What's your
Now, I don't know what your feeling on this is, but my girlfriend hates it. But English people drink tea with milk, so black tea, milk, sugar. We called it the Builder's tea. That's great. I don't know if you have Werther's Original over in America.
We do.
Kind of. Oh, okay. Then that I love those.
Excellent. So Werther's Original. Why does your girlfriend hate black tea? It's delicious.
No, with milk. She doesn't like tea with milk.
Oh, she's like old school or something.
Most of Europe is like tea with milk. What?
Really?
Yeah.
Huh. Is that what they like cream? Because I went to North England and they put this weird crazy cream in everything.
You don't put milk in tea in Europe.
Interesting. Well, that's good to know. We don't really drink tea here, but I always put milk in it when I drink it. So we're on the same plane. Your girlfriend's tastes don't appeal. But awesome. Guy, I appreciate you being here. I appreciate everyone else being here. It has been phenomenal. Make sure you guys tune into the show on Monday. Make sure you tune in Wednesdays and Fridays. We're here with all of the important news you need to know for anything related to Dota. That said, guys, have a great day, a wonderful night, play more Dota, and as always, Toffees out.